Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave, and more specifically to the first proper video of 2020. As you can see, preparations are underway behind me to get packed and the cave's looking pretty bare already, if I'm honest. It's making me a little bit sad. Today's video is the upcrate battle from the December upcrate, and I had good fun with this, so you can come along and see how I used the myriad of pens that came in this month's box. Last month's box. Just before we get started, I'm still waiting on the winner of the Cavemas giveaway for the Inky Wonderlands book, and that is Sheza JB99. Please get in touch with me. I am going to start posting things all over social media to see if I can get a hold of this person. If they don't come forward, I'm going to have to put the book back up for grabs. So if you're watching, please get in touch with me because I'd like to post the book out to you. Right, let's get to top down view and we can get going. So, one of the things I am really guilty of is not exploring a myriad of ideas when it comes to these challenges. I do tend to go with a first one that kind of springs to mind, and it's something that I'd really like to work on as an artist. I really wanted to use both the white and the black paper, and the reason for that was that the art sticks, you know, the Lego type ones, they didn't show up on the black paper. So as I just suggested in my unboxing video, I went with this idea of the Cheshire Cat from the Disney animated version of Alice in Wonderland. So I'm sketching out on 2 sheets of paper here, and as far as challenges go, by my normal standards, I cheated quite considerably with this. I'm usually very strict and only using what comes in the box, but I did use what I would call supporting supplies with this, like a ruler, and I also reverted to form anytime I get a bunch of markers like this. If they're water soluble, I will water them down because I prefer a sort of blendy, painterly type effect. So I've kind of recreated a scene from the actual movie, but I've switched it up a bit. There is a part where Alice is lost and the Cheshire Cat appears and he pulls a branch in a tree and it opens this sort of trapdoor type portcullis into the part where the Queen is and the cards are painting the roses red. Because of the colour scheme that I had available to me, I switched it up a bit. So rather than having the Cheshire Cat opening the branch, I have a Mome Rath who lives in Tawdry Wood. If anybody's seen it, they will know that, and they're kind of like these furry little flower type things, and they've just got legs and eyes and hair. Anyway, and I put the Cheshire Cat in the middle. So using this white paper here, I am sketching out the Cheshire Cat, and he is in the doorway of this tree. And that allowed me to use the art sticks markers, and I used a bit of artistic license with the colour scheme, again just because we're limited, but he still very much looks like a Cheshire Cat. He's just maybe slightly off colour. So I'm just sketching my way around here, and you saw me with the ruler earlier, so I measured out the size because I was going to cut this out and stick it onto the black background, and I wanted to make sure that obviously Mr. Cat was going to fit inside the trunk of the tree, as it were. So it's quite a novel idea, well, for me anyway. I'm not normally that imaginative with that sort of thing, but I really wanted to use all the markers, and I did actually use every single pen bar the Christmas themed gel pen. The reason I didn't use that is it is not waterproof, and when I had a little go on a scrap piece of paper, it just sort of bled into everything else. So I have left that out, but to me that was really an extra item anyway, so I'm not overly bothered about the fact that I didn't use it. So it took me quite a while to plan my colour scheme out to make sure that I did use every marker, and I think you'd be quite impressed with the fact that I managed to squeeze it all in there. This probably took the longest. See this cutting out part, it was so fiddly. And it was at that point I thought to myself, and maybe I should have explored other things, but I really didn't want to go for the winter wonderland because I just knew that it was going to be absolutely done to death. You can see me pausing here quite often with my scissors, and it's because my hand was sore that day, and using that scissor type squeezing motion really hurts my hand when it's stiff. So that's what those pauses were all about. So I've got the Faber-Castell bit pen here, and I'm just outlining Mr. Sea Cat to give him all his appendages And I spent a little bit of time working on his stripes because that's one of the things that gives him his shape, so that he doesn't look flat and, two-dimensional. And that's one thing that I found came quite easily to me, and that's something that maybe even a year ago I would have struggled with, so that felt quite nice. The other thing is I'm always a little bit nervous when I'm lining drawings like this. I don't actually like using fine liners, and it's just because of the steadiness of my hand, and although it's got better over time, it's not something that I'm particularly good at. I do try though, and in this instance it's actually turned out okay. There's not too many wobbly lines. So that was kind of a blessing in disguise. When you're drawing the Cheshire Cat, his eyebrows are the thing that makes him. And you can see there, I've gone back over the lines that I've made for his eyebrows. See, if you take his eyebrows away, it just doesn't look right at all. So it was very important that I spent careful consideration on those eyebrows. But as you can see, he's got that sort of slightly derpy expression on, which is, I'm pretty sure he's on drugs, but don't tell anyone. So here we are, we're in with the pencil again, and this is me putting these stripes in that I was talking about. I had to kind of count round as well to make sure that the stripes weren't all going to sort of merge into each other when it came to his limbs and his tail. I tried to alternate them as much as possible. I'm pretty sure at one point you can see me counting, and I'm going blue, pink, blue, pink, blue, pink. Sometimes the simplest ways are the easiest. I don't know. So when I was thinking about the colour scheme for him here, depending on what light you catch him in, he can look purple and pink, and sometimes he looks kind of like a burgundy colour, and sometimes he looks like a bluey purple. So I used the blue and the straight pink for his stripes, and I watered down the pink art sticks, which you'll see me do in just a wee minute, to get a sort of paler version, and that's just for round his mouth and the paws and the end of his tail. So that gave me really good contrast without having to go and find another pen, because that's kind of cheating. So here's the Faber-Castell metallic pens. So I used this as the kind of it would be the interior of the trunk. If you cut through the trunk of this tree, there would be a section that would be the width of the bark, as it were, before it goes through into this other land. So I thought I would take advantage of that because I thought that might look closest to a pale woody colour. And I wanted some sort of background here. So again, this idea that this is going into the Queen's realm, where this deck of cards are painting the roses red because they planted the white ones by mistake. So I've utilised the green pen here. Now this was the flat green, not the metallic one, just to put a little bit of interest in the background. I mean, Cat's pretty fat, he takes up most of the doorway, but I thought they would be able to sort of squeeze that in a little bit. And then that let me use the red Art Sticks pen to put the red roses on. So here I am watering down the blue one, and this was just to pop the sky in, and I just kind of did that sporadically, so it looked like there was some clouds in the background as well. It's a pretty clear day. And again, it's just adding those little details that can make all the difference when you're doing a challenge like this, and it just makes it a little bit more interesting to look at as well. I was very careful to wait until all that had dried before I went in with the brown pen, and I used that to put in the trunks of the rose bushes. So here's what I was talking about earlier. I've watered down the pink one, and it's just given a nice sort of delicate shade of pink, and it was just a really nice contrast to the stripes, and just gave it a little bit more variety in what I was doing, because I knew I was going to be limited with the colours that I had, so I wanted to try and stretch that as much as possible so that I could keep him as close to his original colours as possible. So here I go, here's me with my blue pen, that's me counting there. See me poking my finger out. Blue, pink, blue, pink, blue, pink. These markers are actually really nice. The brush tip on them's quite firm, but it's not too firm that you can't sort of move about the page easily, and I quite enjoyed these. I had these before in a scroller box. I think it was just a black one I had, and I used that pen for quite a while, but I ended up giving it away to a friend for another purpose. But they're actually quite nice, and although they might look like a very childish supply, they do definitely have their uses, and you can see that the laydown is really vibrant and the pens are quite juicy as well. So that was actually quite an enjoyable part. The paper seemed to take the marker and the watered down marker quite well as well. I didn't know how much buckling I was going to get and that sort of thing, but the paper held up really well. Because one of the things about water based markers is if you scrub too hard or you try and put too many layers down on some papers, it tends to start lifting the paper, it pills the paper. But there was no such problems with that at all when I was doing this, it wasn't surprising, but it was nice, put it that way. It was a nice discovery. So you can see now he's starting to take shape a wee bit. At this point I was really happy with my choice, and any thoughts I had about or regrets about not exploring other avenues for the prompt, they kind of went out the window at this point, which is probably a good thing for me because I don't have time just now to start stuff like this over. So you can see the difference in the pink here. It is really, really vibrant when it's not watered down, and it's actually quite dark. And again, that was just like played to the advantage of the whole thing, and it just gave him that sort of authenticity, which I was kind of worried I might not get because I didn't have the accurate colours for him. So I just tried to be really careful when I was going around and doing this and kind of making sure that everything else was dry. So while wiggling my fingers around there so that I didn't have anything bleeding into anything else and ruin it. As I say, I didn't really want to have to start over because kind of tight for time or stuff like that. So this part of his face is always darker than the rest of him, and rather than trying to do a couple of layers of the pink marker, I've used the Decorate pen here, which is the metallic red one, and it's actually a really close match for his proper colours. So I was really pleased with that as well, that it just kind of it fitted in without blending in, if you know what I mean. And he actually turned out quite well. Now those Decorate pens, they are quite opaque, and I thought I might have to go back over with my fine liner. If I went over my line work a bit too heavily at any point, I might have had to go back in and sort of redefine those lines, but it was absolutely fine. I did another little layer of the watered down pink here, and that was just to give a wee bit more depth to my paler areas. And then I shifted over to this black paper. Now this metallic green pen, it's absolutely identical to the green Wink of Luna pen that I've got. And when I was doing this, it kind of reminded me as well of the recent winter pictures I did with the gelatos. I did like a snow scene on black paper, and when you add water to this on the black paper, it actually behaves very similarly, just without that waxiness. So this was an absolute delight to work with, and the black paper takes water like an absolute trooper. So that was awesome, and I just got to work, and the idea here is that the light's coming from behind this big tree trunk, this big enchanted tree, and I kind of worked my way around in stages, so I was jumping back and forth here to give that green time to dry. So I went to my little gnome wrath here, who's perched atop the tree, and he has pulled the magical branch that is the lever for the trapdoor to open to let everybody into the Queen's realm. So we're going back to the green one now. It's such a lovely colour as well. I really, really like this colour. If I didn't already have the Wink of Luna, I would have considered keeping this particular marker. But as I've got the other one, this is going in with the rest of the markers that came in the upgrade, and I'm putting them into the cave stash. So you can look out for that. The cave stash is going to be refreshed on Saturday, so a couple of days time, and this whole bunch of markers that came in this box will be in there. So I tried to alternate between the sort of watered down version, but also use this marker to just put some highlights where some light might be bouncing, and you can see it helps to give all my wonky branches some sort of shape. Glued down Cheshire Cat in the middle, and now we're on to just kind of like the peripheries. So I've got the sort of bronze coloured marker here, and again this was the only place I used it, and it was just to put the edge of the door in, as it's kind of flapped down. And then I've got the silver metallic Faber-Castell pen, and again same thing. These colours weren't chosen deliberately, I just used them because they needed used up and they hadn't been in play anywhere else in the picture, and that actually worked out quite well. And again, the pen on this paper is just absolutely lovely. I was contemplating a second coat, but I did find with the Faber-Castell metallic pens that if you went over the same part, it did start to tear up the paper. So I just left it, and although it's quite streaky, it's actually given a wee bit of texture to it. So I suppose that's kind of like a happy accident. So this is the white pen now, not particularly opaque, but again, tried to use that to my advantage to give a sort of glow of light from this doorway and just blend it out. I did go over these various areas a couple of times just to try and intensify it a wee bit, but I think it's actually turned out okay. It's not bad at all. Everybody needs enchanted glowy spots in their picture, so why not? And you can see I'm just adding a bit more of that light in there. As I said, I just went back over it a couple of times. So yeah, that's more or less it. The last thing was the black marker, and I just used, that was the one with like the chisel tip on it, and I used that to put in some of the texture of the trunk, just where it might be visible in these sort of highlighted areas. So I didn't use that for much at all, but I did use it. And that is pretty much it. I would love to know what you think of this, guys. I would also like to know what you have done for your Upcreate Wonderland. So leave me a comment down below and we shall see you on Sunday for the next video. I want to thank you all for coming and hanging out, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.